Hi, welcome to 2020 Tasty Treats with GourmetQuilter. We're having a very tasty day today. We're doing some appliques this series on things in the kitchen, and mostly it's things. Sometimes it's more than things, it's tasty things. We had some jam, that was nice. These are what we're doing. We've already done 11 of the 20 appliques that we're doing in this series, and this time it is absolutely tasty. We're doing like a high tea stand. We've got a little 3-tiered platter, and we've got all sorts of little things on it, which looks so delicious. So I've already started. If you've already signed up to receive the pattern, you'll have a pattern ready to trace with everything on it. And I've already cut all my shapes out, but I thought I'd show you this time because some of these pieces are quite small and quite fiddly to put together. I thought I'd show you how I like to do it. I've got an applique mat. It's just a Teflon mat. It's probably twice this size. I've just got it folded over for space. So what you can do, there's lots of ways of using the Teflon mats, and they basically just stop things sticking where you don't want them to stick. So I've already gone ahead. I'm using steamer seam fusible web, so it's already a little bit sticky, so it's just grabbing the cloth a little bit, but it's not fused on yet. So when we do something like this one, we've got this long stand that comes right up the middle, and so I'd suggest that you do a finger press on your background fabric so that you can position that straight up the center, and then there's a little knob on top, which is obviously something we can lift it by, and then these little plates that are going to go on, again, that just as a temporary positioning, they can go roughly equal distance apart. There's nothing terribly critical about the way they sit. So I've got all those in place. I've already popped some very delicious, I think they're ginger kisses. Ginger kisses are so good. They're probably one of my favorites. But to get back to the applique, so what we can do is we can assemble some of our applique on here rather than have to worry about every little piece. We can do it all here, and because it's on the Teflon, which is a non-stick type thing, we can lift it off in one piece. So simply with the little cookies down here with their icing, so we've got a simple shape here, and we've got the icing that can just sit on top, and we can iron those together on the mat. And you think that's a little bit weird, but that will peel off. As soon as it's cooled down a little bit, that will peel off the mat, and it won't leave any residue, or if it leaves a little bit, you can just brush it away. And so I'm working now just with one unit rather than lots of tiny little bits. So I've actually already positioned some of them in here. I've got one more to go, and I think that one can just probably sit. So it sits within the plate, because this plate would be coming up and they'd be sitting within, so that's looking pretty good. Now I could iron those in place already, but I think I'm just going to wait till I've got everything on. So on the next tier we've got some little sandwiches. So I've already assembled a couple of them, but I haven't ironed anything yet. So they're made out of 3 pieces. So we've got the front piece of bread, we've got the piece of bread that sits behind, and that really just sits next to the other piece. It probably could all have been in one piece, but I'm a bit of a realist and I know it's 2 separate pieces of bread. So then this little piece, this is the filling. I'm not sure what's in our sandwich, but I'm sure it's delicious. And this just sits right over that join, and even though it's not very large, it will hold the pieces together, and it will look like there's something in our sandwich as soon as I get it in the right place. And so those 3 are all just sitting there. I can iron those, my 3 sandwiches now ready to put on my platters. And then there's, in the top tier, there's going to be some little cupcakes. So same thing, I haven't ironed this yet, but we've got the little cupcake holder. So we could probably position our little piece of cake first, then pop the little cupcake base on top of that, just overlapping a little bit. Then a little bit of icing on top. One hasn't got icing. I'm not sure who that one's for, because I think the one with icing is probably for me. And then there's a little cherry on top of that. Well, mine's a cherry, yours could be any number of things. And again, we can iron all of that so that it's just going to work as one unit. Often I like to do things not as one unit, but when they're tiny little things like this, it's worth doing it as a unit. So there is a diagram of the whole block on the pattern piece. So if you're getting the pattern piece, you'll have all that you can refer to. Now in this particular case I haven't ironed this in place, and there is actually a sandwich behind the stand, but it wouldn't really matter if it was in behind or in front. But as it's shown on the diagram behind, I'm placing it behind because it's around the other side of the plate. And then there's another little sandwich that comes in here somewhere. And these can be a little bit haphazard. They're just sitting there waiting to be eaten. And this one's coming into the plate like this. A little bit of the edge is sticking out, I think. Oops. Probably can't see with my hand there. So that one's just sitting up a little bit, maybe not quite that much. Try and imagine how it might look if you had a tray of sandwiches in front of you. Of course you could have a tray of sandwiches in front of you. And then there's two little cupcakes. As you can see, these are just peeling off here quite nicely as one unit. So it does make it a little bit easier when we come to do things that have got multiple small pieces. And I'm not finding any residue. There's nothing on my Teflon, so that's really good. So we probably want these to be fairly level, fairly much inside there. I think that's looking pretty good. Pretty much like a 3-tier afternoon tea, which I'm very much looking forward to if only it was real. However, this is the more slimming variety. So I'm just ironing everything in place now. I'm happy with the way everything's sitting. Because I'm going to be free motion sewing, I'm going to put a piece of stabilizer behind, and I'm just using a lightweight cotton batting for that. So this is going to be a little bit more involved for stitching, but really just a matter of doing it slowly, taking your time, especially if you're free motioning like I am. I might start with these little ginger kisses down the bottom. So it's going to be a matter of just going from one thing onto the next, and making sure that you do stitch around all the raw edges. So I might start with this little cookie that's at the back here. And so I'm just outlining with a free motion straight stitch, and then I'm going to do this little bit of the filling in here. Oh, so delicious. And then I can just skip on to this next one, and sometimes you've got to go over the same bit again just to be able to get around, and I don't think that's really a problem. It doesn't seem to cause any problems. So I might skip here onto the little plate and come around. Now I've got this little stand base here as well, so while I'm here I might just do that as well. Come back onto the plate now and keep coming around and finishing off this whole level. Go past that one, but then I'm going to come over and do this little cookie that's here. So sometimes when we do this sort of doubling over stitching, it doesn't really show that much. And I can come back onto the plate here and just follow that same line of sewing again along to the next bit, because the next bit's just a little bit in there. And then onto this last cookie here, but we've still got a bit of the plate to finish. We'll get there. So I can come down here and come back onto the plate now, and I can just continue on, and then I will have to stop and start to do the next segment, but I just thought if I went through one of the segments you could just see what I'm doing, because it is a bit more involved than some of the other appliques that we're doing at the moment. So that one, I'll just snip that thread off. So that's that whole little lower section done. I just need to come up and do my stand and come around the sandwiches, and I will need to come around all the filling and everything as well on the sandwiches and the cupcakes. So I'll continue on and I'll show you when I do some of the little fiddly bits. So I'm just on this last little sandwich here, which is looking very delicious. So I'm just going to come down on the filling and across and then back up the filling, and then down this other slice of bread around the other side of my sandwich, and then I can come back onto this plate. Now I've done part of the plate coming along, but I haven't done all of it, so I'm just going to back up a little bit to that little bit there and then come along again so that I can finish coming around to the base of the plate there. So you can see how all that's gone. So it's just a couple of extra little bits of stitching sometimes that generally won't show in the end result. So, and I've already done this little part of the stand here, so now I need to come up and go around on the cupcakes, but it's kind of much the same as we've been doing, so I'll just keep going and show you when I get to the end. So I'm just on the last little cupcake. I've gone around the stand and I've gone around all sorts of things. I'm just going to come across here, down there, and then come back up there so that I can get onto the cake, but then I've got to get onto this icing. And while I'm here I might just do that last bit of the cake there so that I don't have to come back there again. And then onto this cherry on the top. How delicious. Just along again so that I can finish off that last little bit of icing there. And now I've done all the edges so I can finish off, and I am ready for afternoon tea. I don't know about you, but it is looking pretty good. So there's our little cake stand with our high tea on it. We've got some cupcakes, sandwiches, ginger kisses. What more could we want in life? So that was applique number 12 out of our 20. So that's definitely something I want to find in my kitchen. Not looking very hopeful, I have to say, because I'm guessing it would have to be me that would have to prepare it. However, it's something to think about and to dream about, because that's fun too. So that was applique number 12 for In the Kitchen. I will see you again with applique number 13.